remember the first time I stepped into Miss Tran's bright classroom at Sunrise Language Academy. My palms were sweaty, and my heart pounded like a drum in my chest. Everything around me, the colorful posters, the polished wooden desks, the soft hum of the air conditioner, felt foreign. I had come from a small town in Cambodia, where the only English I'd ever heard was in the occasional pop song on the radio. Now, at 19 years old, I was starting a course that promised to transform my life, intensive English for academic purposes. Chapter 1: The Silent Student. In those early days, I was the silent student. I sat in the back row, my notebook open but my pen idle. Every time Miss Tran called on me, I felt my jaw lock and my tongue tie in knots. Even simple greetings felt impossible. "Good morning, class." "Good morning, teacher," everyone chorused. I tried, but my good morning came out as something between good mornin' and a squeak. I could see sympathetic smiles from my classmates, but also impatience on Miss Tran's face. I wondered if she thought I'd ever learn. At home, I practiced alone. I repeated "good morning, how are you?" and "thank you" until my voice cracked, sounding more like a translation app than a human being. My parents encouraged me, but I could see concern in their eyes. They'd invested so much in my education, tuition fees, bus fare into the city, and a lifetime of dreams pinned on me mastering English. Chapter 2: First Breakthroughs. 1 week into the course, everything changed. It was Wednesday afternoon, and Miss Tran had announced that our next speaking exercise would be a 2-minute self-introduction. My stomach dropped. 2 minutes was an eternity in English. I spent every spare minute preparing. I wrote out my script, practiced in front of the bathroom mirror, recorded myself on my phone. I learned a new word each day: passion, culture, ambition. By the time Wednesday rolled around, I felt cautiously ready. When my turn came, I stood before 20 pairs of eyes. My voice trembled as I began. "Hello, my name is Sa Peek. I am from Battambang, Cambodia. I study business at university." I stumbled over Cambodia, mispronouncing it twice, but I kept going. I talked about my dream to work for an international company, my love of Khmer classical dance, and my motivation to travel the world. And then, magic. I finished. There was a moment of stunned silence, followed by a round of applause. My classmates smiled, and even Miss Tran nodded approvingly. In that instant, I realized I could do this. Chapter 3: The Power of Friendship. After that day, everything felt different. I stopped hiding behind my notebook. I volunteered answers in class, even when I wasn't sure. I joined study groups and made friends from all over the world: Maria from Brazil, who dreamed of becoming a journalist, Ahmed from Egypt, who loved cricket, and June from South Korea, who taught me how to use Korean pop songs to memorize vocabulary. Together, we formed a study pact. Every evening, we met at the campus cafe with our textbooks and laptops. We quizzed each other on vocabulary, practiced pronunciation, and exchanged notes on grammar. We laughed at mistakes, like the time Ahmed mixed up sheet and a more embarrassing word, and cheered each other's progress. Maria and I began a ritual. Every time we learned a difficult expression, we would use it in a silly role play. We'd pretend to be detectives solving a mystery on campus, complete with accents and dramatic gestures. These playful exercises made the language come alive, and I found myself thinking in English even when I was alone. Chapter 4: Facing Setbacks. But the journey wasn't all smooth. Midway through the course, we had our first major exam, writing a 5-paragraph essay on the topic education and its impact on society. I'd never written an essay in English longer than a paragraph. As I stared at the blank screen, I felt panic rising. I drafted and redrafted. My teacher's comments came back in red ink: thesis unclear, transition needed, vocabulary too basic. My grade was a C passing, but far from the A I craved. I was devastated. That night, I called my mother. She listened as I poured out my frustration. "You've come so far," she said gently. "Learning a language is like climbing a mountain with no map. Sometimes the path is steep, and sometimes you slide back. But you always climb again." Her words reminded me why I started, not just for a grade, but for a future I believed in. Chapter 5: Immersion and Discovery. Determined to improve, I decided to immerse myself fully. I changed my phone settings to English. I swapped Khmer TV shows for English news channels. I downloaded podcasts on topics I loved: technology, entrepreneurship, travel. I kept a vocabulary journal, writing down 10 new words each day and using them in sentences. Then, a golden opportunity, the Academy organized a weekend homestay with an English-speaking host family in Phnom Penh. I signed up immediately. For 3 days, I lived with the Hendersons: Mark, a software engineer from Canada, his wife, Emily, and their 2 children, Lily and Noah. At breakfast, we discussed world events. Over dinner, we talked about our hobbies. At bedtime, we read storybooks together. No Khmer was spoken. At first, I stumbled through conversations, but the family was patient. Mark corrected my pronunciation gently. Emily explained idioms like spill the beans and hit the books. By the end of the weekend, I realized I could hold an actual conversation, not defined by halting stops and grammar fears, but by genuine exchange. I felt my confidence grow. Chapter 6: The Presentation. Returning to class, I had a new challenge: a 10-minute group presentation on a social issue. My team chose the role of technology in modern education. As the only native Khmer speaker, I worried about my part, summarizing research findings and leading the Q&A session. We met for days, rehearsing slides and timing our segments. When presentation day arrived, my heart pounded again, but this time with excitement rather than fear. I spoke clearly about virtual classrooms, digital literacy, and the digital divide. During the Q&A, I answered questions from ghost robotics experts and education policymakers in fluent, confident English. When we finished, the classroom erupted in applause. Our group received the highest grade in the class. More importantly, I felt transformed, no longer the timid newcomer, but a confident communicator. Chapter 7: Graduation and Beyond. 6 months flew by. On the final day of class, Miss Tran handed out certificates. As she called my name, she looked at me with pride. "Sop-heek, you've found your voice," she said, smiling. "You've done all the work yourself. Congratulations." I stood before my classmates and teachers once more, this time to deliver the closing remarks. I spoke about the journey we'd shared, the challenges we'd overcome, and the friendships we'd formed. I quoted my mother's words about climbing mountains. When I finished, tears glistened in the eyes of those around me, tears of joy, of pride, of remembrance for how far we'd all come. Today, I work as a project coordinator for an international NGO in Phnom Penh. Every day, I use English in emails, meetings, and reports. I mentor newcomers learning the language, sharing the strategies that helped me, immersion, perseverance, and humor. I still remember the nervous girl in the back row, tongue-tied and hopeful. She taught me that finding one's voice takes more than vocabulary and grammar. It takes courage, community, and a willingness to stumble, learn, and stand again. My journey to English fluency continues, but today, I speak with clarity and confidence, ready to explore the world beyond my small hometown. And whenever I hear someone else's halting good morning, I smile, remembering my own first steps, and I cheer them on, because finding one's voice is the greatest journey of all.